Okay, so as you already addressed it, the final goal of Israel is elimination, total elimination of the Hamas.
I didn't say that actually.
Okay, so
I said defeat of Hamas as a political principle
okay.
in Gaza.
Oh, that's the final goal. That's the end game. You can say that.
Look, obviously we would prefer that Hamas would cease to exist, but we're realistic, and what we need to achieve is we need to remove them from leadership in Gaza.
Okay. So some say that no matter who the next Israeli prime minister will be, he cannot speak about peace with the Palestinians for the time being or for several years. It's very difficult to discuss about peace with the Palestinians after horrible, destruction in the Jewish buildings near to the Gaza. Something happened to the Gaza.
I don't agree with that assessment.
Yeah.
I think, look, the Israeli public is angry and resentful towards the Palestinian public at this time. Look, every side understands themselves very well. So let me at least explain how I understand the Israeli self-view. Israel believes that they've tried to negotiate with the Palestinian people in good faith for the establishment of a Palestinian state. And for that reason, Israel was willing to return large parts of the West Bank and the entirety of Gaza.
Yep.
And what has come instead is a leadership that we can't live with. On October 7th, the Israeli public saw in their mind's eye a vision of what would happen, or what we believe would happen if we ever lost the upper hand in the Middle East, which basically is a total slaughter and massacre of Israel. And that was kind of an awakening which was very harsh. Also, who crossed the border from Gaza were actually Palestinians who worked in Israeli farms and had work relationships. They gathered intelligence and made maps, so that there's kind of a feeling of betrayal, a deep mistrust and disillusionment with our neighbor. However, that's obviously not the entirety of the situation. The Palestinian people are many millions of people, and I'm certain that we can find a way to make peace with them, not on terms which will meet their maximal demands nor our maximal wishes. The job of an Israeli leadership is to lead the people, to lead the people to the right place, not to follow polls. And I think that if opportunity comes and we're able to move forward to some sort of arrangement which will not threaten the Israeli security, and which the Israeli public will believe has some chance of success, I think an Israeli leadership will be able to bring the Israeli public behind it.
I really hope so. Yeah, but I was in Israel, so I felt that many Israelis are very, angry. Really,
yeah, again, but in a democracy, proper leadership asks the confidence of the people and then leads. That's what leaders are supposed to do. They're not supposed to consult polling institutes all the time. They're supposed to take the country in the direction that it's supposed to go. And our future is integration in our region. The Abraham Accords have to expand. We need to achieve a peace treaty with Saudi Arabia, and we need to find an arrangement with our most immediate neighbor, the Palestinian people. I think that Israeli governments will no longer be willing to entertain the idea of a Palestinian state, because they will be concerned that a Palestinian state will quickly devolve into a failed state. But they will be, I think governments both of left, center, and right will be willing to entertain a strong Palestinian autonomy and self-rule.
Not a state.
Something less than a state, because in the case of a state, you can't cross the border in case of emergency. It will be sanctioned by the Security Council. Or if a state, if Fatah, for example, will establish the government, and half a year later they'll be toppled by a Hamas coup, that'll be catastrophic for Israel. How will we deal with it? And this Palestinian Hamas state will have the full protection, of UN instruments, which are never in our favor, or very rarely in our favor. So I think that Israeli governments are not going to be in favor of statehood, but they surely will be in favor of strong Palestinian autonomy and self-rule.
Since the Gaza war broke out, do you think Israeli nice images, it has been tarnished after the war?
Surely been tarnished. When you fight a war like this, an urban war, where you send in a civilian army, you care about your soldiers, you're not willing to send them in without artillery suppression of sniper fire, you're going to have massive destruction, and it's going to look bad. And my view, though, is that Israel has to be worried about its image, but security of its citizens comes first. Security before image. Of course, at some point, if image deteriorates too much, that also affects security. But to fight this kind of war with the entire world looking over your shoulder saying, no, 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 I don't know if any liberal state can fight such a war successfully. And it goes to the question as to whether self-defense of liberal democracies is possible. I think Israel will be a test case for this. What the prosecutor, Karim Khan, is trying to do with the International Criminal Court, it's unconscionable. It's unconscionable. He's trying to put the Israeli Prime Minister, Minister of Defense on trial together with the leadership of Hamas. What does that mean? That means that a democracy, even if it does things that you don't agree with every state, but you're saying that if it carries out a war of self-defense, an urban war of self-defense, right on its border, its leadership will be put on trial as war criminals. I think that countries which support the court, like Republic of Korea, have to speak out about this, because the behavior of the prosecutor will destroy the court. The United States will never agree to this. Not a Harris presidency and not a Trump presidency.
In a similar vein, I met many Israeli colleagues saying that they made a mistake. Regarding the horrible humanitarian disaster in the Gaza Strip, regarding the tarnished reputation of Israel in the world. So if you could, revert your choice in the war operation, what would you do differently?
Okay, first of all, if you take everything operation by operation, or airstrike by airstrike, obviously you discover mistakes and results that you wish had not happened. And of course, but decisions are made in real time. I think, if anything, perhaps we should have, from day one, considered the flooding of Gaza with humanitarian aid as important for our war aims. Israeli military and political leadership understood that at I think about a month into the war, but it would have helped us if we would have thought about that at the very beginning. But maybe that's kind of demanding something which is superhuman. On the evening of October 7th and October 8th, Israel was looking at a situation where it had been successfully invaded by a much inferior force, where a large massacre of its population had taken place, and where 250 hostages were being held in Gaza. And there was a feeling that Israel must exercise great force, lest our enemies in the north, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Iranians, see the failure of the Israeli defense and join in this. They have to be deterred. So I don't think that the first thing we were thinking about is organizing supply trucks into Gaza. But maybe that could be better considered. regarding the amount of destruction in Gaza, I honestly don't know if the war can be fought any differently. If let's say that the number of 40,000 dead is accurate. We don't know, but let's say that it is. Okay, Israel is claiming that close to 18,000 or 19,000 of those are Hamas fighters. That comes to, I mean, it's a cruel mathematics, but that comes to 1 to 1.5, or even a ratio which is a little bit less. It's less than the NATO war in Kosovo, which was 1 to 4. It's less than the Korean War, which was 1 to 3. I'm sure it's less than World War II, by far. So yes, it's harsh, and yes, it's hard to see, but we're not trying to destroy the Palestinian people. We're not trying to destroy the Gaza society, and yet the destruction is very significant. It's not clear to me how it's possible to fight Hamas in a different way.
So you're against the genocide claim, because genocide
it has no basis. It has zero basis. First of all, look, I think that there was a problem in the way the UN used genocide in the past. Maybe it was overused, but right now, it's been completely politicized. Genocide means the intentional destruction of a people. Israel is not trying to destroy the Gazan people, and is not carrying out any sort of policy which leads to that end. We're not starving Gaza. We're not purposely withholding aid from Gaza. We're not targeting civilian citizens as Gazan civilians as a matter of war. We have no. It's unfair. It's incorrect.
Even ethnic cleansings, accusations.
But we're not trying to remove Gazans from Gaza. We're not doing anything to remove them from Gaza. We're not pushing Gazans into Sinai. We're not removing anyone from anywhere. And we have no such policy.
Okay. How do you find for the first time in the U.S., university campus, you see the organized anti-Israeli demonstrations? How did you find it?
Well, it's not the first time.
It's not the first time.
I was consul general in San Francisco during 2 rounds of fighting in Lebanon, in Gaza between 2008 and 2012. I was present at divestment hearings at the University of California, Berkeley, which failed at that time. And there's been anti-Israel voices on campus for a long time, but now it's become more severe. And I think it's not only Palestinian students and students of a certain political color. It's sort of like they've connected to some sort of atmosphere of this period, white supremacy and all kinds of other deeply progressive aims. First of all, I think that the university system is recovering. You see that the American presidents have now set down clear guidelines about how protests can be carried out and how they can't be carried out. No encampments, no blocking of access, no blocking of Jewish students, no hiding faces. So I think I also hear voices on the moderate left in the United States that says students have to go to university to learn. But what I found most depressing about this student movement is, I was a student activist. I was a student activist at Columbia University of freedom for Soviet Jews, for divestment against apartheid South Africa. But we never were in a situation where we could not hear opposite arguments. And this protest movement believes that dialogue is wrong and conversation is fundamentally cannot be carried out. It's nihilistic in terms of its approach to knowledge. It believes that there are power structures which don't enable any sort of dialogue. It also does not believe that it's required to have knowledge, or historical knowledge of events. So, and you saw that because the protests broke out on October 8th, one day after the Hamas attack, before the Israeli retaliation.
Oh, really?
So, and I hope that what's going on in the American Academy is not happening in Korea.
Yeah.
It's not happening in Israeli university. I think it's happening less in European universities. I hope that we can go back to a time. I'm nostalgic for the past. I was a student in Columbia. I had a professor, Edward Said. He's a professor of literature. He wrote Orientalism. He was the primary voice of the Palestinian national movement in the United States. And he managed to teach a seminar on literature and philosophy together with Sidney Morgenbesser, who's the head of the philosophy department and was a devoted Jewish Zionist. And they agreed that they did not agree about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or the Israeli-Arab conflict, but they agreed that each other was a human being and an intellectual and worthy of dialogue.
Yeah.
And I found Professor Said, he was gracious towards me. He knew who I was. He knew that I was moving to Israel immediately after my graduation and that I was going to serve in the IDF. And it never kept us from talking and respecting each other.
Well, really?
And I think that's where we need to go back. We need to go back to the university campus being a contest of ideas, not a war for seizing the university as a symbol for my political agenda. That's not what learning is about. Learning is about having strong arguments about ideas, but through critical inquiry. And I don't think that's what's happening. And therefore, I don't think that the protest movement is worthy of praise at all.
Anyway, we are glad that you pick up Edward Said because he is still very popular among the Korean youth. So.
Look, one should read Orientalism. One should. You don't have to agree with everything that's Said's view of the West and the Middle East, but it's surely worthy of a hearing.
Yeah, your unhappy questions. But I think so far we are very good. You're so honest, and thank you. And there we go, the question. So. One of the description or maybe judgment about the war in Gaza right now is like at the beginning Israel was Ukraine, but later on people found out that Israel became kind of Russia. So how do you see? I mean, do you buy this, and how do you see this?
I don't buy it. I think it's a facile comparison, which is not correct.
Okay.
I mean, Russia is holding Ukrainian hostages and Ukrainian children inside Russia. Israel is not holding Gazan hostages. We're holding Gazan combatants who we've captured. Gaza is holding our hostages. So Gaza is Russia. I think people say it because it doesn't look pretty. Israel has an air force, Israel has an army, Israel has tanks. Hamas is less strong, and it's fighting the way it's fighting from within its public, from behind its public, something which Ukraine is not doing. So I understand maybe the way things look on the surface, but I don't think that such a comparison has any basis or justification.
How do you expect, the last stage, trial to reach the deal in the Cairo?
Look, I hope that the Arab states will talk some sense into Sinwar. Tell them you have to agree to a deal.
Keep pressure on
Sinwar. You have to agree to a deal in which you're not going to rule Gaza anymore. We're not asking you to sacrifice yourself personally, but you're going to have to allow another principal to come here and rehabilitate it because Israel's not going to let you do it.
Do you expect how Koreans how Koreans' attitude to this conflict?
Korean attitude is they want this conflict to end already. It's disrupting things in the world. Suez Canal is barely usable. Houthis are firing on ships. It's causing disruption. It's unpleasant. So I think they'd like it to end. I'd also like it to end.
No, about the Israeli position. What do you expect from the Koreans about your position on the conflict?
I'll let you speak to Korean Mofa about that. I know their position very well, but I don't think that it's for me to present it.
You have been here for 4 years, almost 4 years?
Almost 4 years.
So how do you find Koreans?
I had a great time here. First of all, like a good diplomat, I hope I'm a good diplomat.
No, that's the fact.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. My wife also thinks I did a good job.
Of course.
Oh, that's good.
That's important.
Yeah.
I loved my time here. Really, it was magnificent. I had not lived in Asia for a long time. I served in Taiwan in the 90s, and now I was back here in the 2020s. And I saw, first of all, Whole East Asia, which is more prosperous, more clean in terms of pollution. And I hadn't been in Korea, but Taiwan was very polluted at the time. And I see an extremely successful state, but also I connect to your history and to your angst and to the Korean deep love of its own culture and also its very, very harsh self-criticism.
Self-criticism.
I feel at times I feel very, very much at home here. With all the differences between us, there's many similarities between the Korean culture and the culture of Israel and the Jewish people. On the other hand, there are a lot of differences, but I really connected. I tried to connect by being myself. I didn't try to change myself, and I think that Korea really accepted the way that I behave and express myself. The thing that was hard it was hard to be away from my kids.
No.
I have 4 kids in Israel,
course, yeah.
and it was hard and long, and and when war broke out, it became even more difficult.
Now you're gonna see them.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how do you find the relationship between South Korea, and Israel?
Republic of Korea and Israel have good relations, but they lack intimacy.
Intimacy.
We
need more. So what we can do?
We're not yet in love.
We're
not yet in love. The Korean president has never visited Israel in 62 years of relations.
That's true.
Korean foreign minister last visited Israel in 2014.
Wow.
Korean defense minister last visited Israel in 1995.
You memorized everything.
Wow.
These are not signs of a close enough relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that we can do so much for each other. We're both middle powers, and we both have a lot of regional difficulties. We both have deep belief in the authenticity of our culture and that we have something to give to the world. We can help each other in a deeper way. The Israeli innovation, which is in a way insane, the amounts of innovation in Israel, connected to the Korean manufacture and engineering and design. Together they'll build the market autonomous vehicle which will lead the market. In exploration of a moon mission, AI, quantum computing, we both have national projects. If we put our projects a little bit together, we'll get more.
We can do better.
We'll do better. We'll do better.
Because of the war. I mean, you know that we are about to visit.
I think that it will happen after the war. I think that President Yoon is so inclined.
Yeah.
And I think it will be really good.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really good.
And also, you know that many Koreans are so excited about your, startup like culture and innovation culture, but the same people is a little bit shrunk when they hear about the war and genocide and etc.
All right. Well, here, look, we talked about it. The genocide claim has no basis in anything, but. Look, I think that we're far away from each other. Koreans see a lot of destruction and violence on the screen, and they're concerned about it.
Yeah.
But we'll get past this. We'll get past it. The Abraham Accords will revive. And our relationship in this region will also flourish again. And I think it will happen sooner rather than later. I also think that Korea will overcome all of its challenges. And the Koreans don't believe me when they say it. But consider, the Korean culture is more than 4,000 years old.
Yeah.
Hangukga is older than Hebrew. You're older than the Jewish people.
Oh, wow.
And we're ancient. But you're more ancient by at least 1,000 years. That means that the Korean culture has within itself the strengths which are required to endure and to thrive, even in adversity. So I think Korea will overcome all of this stuff, including the birth rate issue. You'll start having babies again. And the Korean children are so beautiful and so joyful when you see them. Korea will rediscover all of this. It'll come back within our lifetime.
Thank you.
I think so.
This is your last word to Koreans, or you want to say more about the Koreans?
Shalom lehitraot kamsahamnida. Thank you for hosting me in your wonderful country for the last 4 years. I hope I've done my part to bring Israel and Korea closer, and I'll always be a friend of Korea.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.